acclimatize rather quickly.
Hi, good evening and welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We also coming to you live on YouTube. You can get it there on the Guyanese Critic page. It is November the 2nd and I did listen while driving to one radio station starting to play Christmas songs, and it brings back a lot of memories, of course. But the kind of things like Jim Reeves, since I wasn't here, and it's more this Caribbean kind of Christmas carols, Christmas songs that would have brought back so many memories. So I mean, same as if we heating up, headed straight down into Christmas, and let us get that Christmas feel up there. Christmas time down Regent Street is something that we would have been growing up with, dealing with it, and it is so much so. Christmas in Guyana, you can't find it like any other place except in Guyana. And I really look forward to having something this year. Had a couple tough years with COVID and elections and everything, and I'm hoping this year to really, take it a little slow and enjoy it. I think we deserve it as a people, but there's so much more to life that sometimes we just really got to take it a little slow and just say, look, let's enjoy it for the moment. So, before I start and introduce you to or hand you over to my co-host Freddie Kissoon, I want to say good night to all the folks who've been joining us. Our numbers are looking good. You guys are been looking at the show. Even if you don't catch it now, we know a lot of people are tuning in and sharing it like crazy and listening, because these are the kind of analysis, the analytical kind of look into what is happening in Guyana, how are our politicians and leaders behaving, and we talk about our policies for Guyana. Is it good? Are we making mistakes? Where are we headed? With the oil economy that is done before us, we have to make sure that we make those decisions. There was one story that I saw today before I hand you over to Freddie. 2 men walked into a police station, said they were robbed, and the police decided to search the bag, and the police found the loot. The loot belongs to their employer. I don't know how stupid we could get, but that had me going for a little while. I want to say good night to my co-host Freddie Kissoon, who's going to do the honors to introduce you to a young man. Before I hand you over there again, in Guyana, we're going to agree to disagree. We're going to have people of different sides of the divide, whether it's the opposition or the government. What we have to do as Guyanese, we have to be able to utilize all the resources that we have, the human resources, and have those kind of people sitting there who could contribute to the dialogue of developing this country. Freddie Kissoon.
Good evening, wherever you are. As Renal Gildarie just told you, this is the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We come to you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8:30 to 9:30. Our guest this evening is a high-profile politician, but more profiled and more known in Region 4 because he is the regional executive chairman, elected regional executive chairman of the largest region of Guyana, Region 4, a former Army captain and now currently member of the PNC Central Executive Committee, Daniel Seeram. Daniel, welcome to the program. And there's something I've noticed when you were sitting down. You're sitting to my left, and there was another high-profile municipal officer that was sitting to my left, and I noticed something in his hand, on his hand, and you have the identical. Is this a municipal thing?
No. He
had these things. He had this.
No, this is religious.
It's religious because.
Freddie Kissoon, you don't know that?
I know that's religious, but Mento had that too. Mento had some colorful ones. And then the leather
I'm not
thing.
sure about that, but that is...
Mento had some...
that is the Hindu...
But the other religions, there must be another religion Mento embraced. There's another religion, there's another thing Mento embraced, because Mento had the leather and some colorful ones too. So I just thought it was either a PNC thing, because Mento is a deputy chairman of the PNC Georgetown Group. And... he's a municipal officer. He is in the PNC Central Executive, and he's a municipal officer too. So I thought it was something, but
You thought I left them Jandy together?
No, but I don't know if Mentor may be here too. I didn't ask him, but anyway, Mr. Seeram, welcome to the program. And my first question is one that is not dissection between journalism and politics. There are always politicians who have the little friendship with journalists that they give them information that happen all over the world. And I have my little contacts in Alliance for Change. Now, I shouldn't be laughing, but I don't know why. It's funny that nobody in the AFC wants to hear your name. Why is that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Good evening, Leonard, and good evening, Mr. Kissoon.
What you did, the AFC people?
Well, I can't answer for that. I can't answer that. I have no idea what I could have possibly done to anybody in the AFC. But I would check my sources if I were you to find out if you have credible information. Right? Actually, I have a very good relationship with all of the AFC membership. So what you're saying really boggles my mind.
Well, I'm telling you, when your name comes up, it doesn't travel well in the AFC, so something could have happened. I am assuming it's the quarrel that had consequences in your party and the AFC party in which you refuse, well, I don't know if you refuse or it was not constitutionally possible or there were some legal hurdles, but the AFC in your government, in the Region 4 government, tabled a no confidence motion in you, and I don't know if it's you or the system, but it never came on the agenda.
Well, for that particular issue, right, I was not even in the country. And my vice chairman, he deputized as the chairman of the region. We did get some reports about some motion would have been moved to someone. I never saw the document. However, at that point in time, it could not have been done or whatever was there. There were several issues with whatever they were trying to do. And then when I returned to the country, all of the issues just went away magically. So I did read most of it from the papers actually, and not anything directly to my office or anything submitted to be placed on any agenda. We do note that the AFC would have lobbied for a position at the Regional Democratic Council, DEMERARA-MAHAICA Region 4, and that matter was dealt with at the coalition level. With regards to any other issue, I'm really unaware.
Okay. Whether it just disappeared or what have you, there were ongoing disputes between the two parties in the media. People read it, did that. And then it led to a no confidence motion. Now you saying that thing was never put on the table, it just disappeared. Explain to our viewers, was there an expressed agreement that the Region 4 chairman would come from the PNC and his deputy would come from the AFC? AFC, the people I have spoken to, are contending that was an agreement, that was a covenant. Was it breached, or you had anything to do with it if it was breached?
At that point in time, I was nowhere part of the leadership of the party or the coalition. So I wouldn't be able to say if any agreement was met on that way. What I do know is that when we went the morning to elect a chairman and a vice chairman, right, so how the elections ran, if we didn't vote how we voted, we would have lost the vice chairman seat to the PPP. And that is how we have myself and the current vice chairman in position by nominations. Whether there was an agreement or so, I would have not been privileged to such.
But you would have known that exploded in the press, in which there were accusations that...
Well, journalists sensationalize every single tidbit of information that they want. At that point in time in September 2020, right, everything was being sensationalized. So whatever sold in the news, I guess that's what the people wanted to hear. Whatever flair they could have gotten from the situation. But the coalition, both the APNU and the AFC, remain concrete and in place.
No. Are you saying that I have to defend the media. I do not think the media sensationalized a disagreement because there were several expressions from the AFC which now could be easily ascertained by a Google search that the agreement, I concede that you said you were not part of that ambiance, political ambiance, but they were running commentary and positions in the media by the AFC that the agreement was Region 4 chairman goes to the PNC, his deputy goes to the AFC. And the controversy reached the stage where a no confidence motion was birthed by the AFC. Surely all of that can be sensationalism by the media.
Well, I can't comment on the commentary that you just put forward. However, if there are any facts to substantiate any of the things that you're saying, I'm willing to look at it.
Thank you. Mr. Seeram, thank you for that. You were a captain in the Army.
Yes, the captain of the Guyanese Defense Force.
And the Army could be very an exciting place for people who are looking for that kind of life. How did you evolve, or how did you make the step into the political life?
Well, you know, in the military, and I would say to any young professional coming up, if you want a very meaningful career, the military will be one of them, especially in Guyana. We have a ton of things that you can do there when you go, many exposures, and most of them would have prepared me for the role that I have here, which is managing the region at the most senior level. And I always knew it in myself to be one of the leaders in Guyana, and I kept pushing myself along with the support of my family and close relatives, my wife also, and keep going and going. And then the opportunity presented itself for me to, you know, come out after I decided after 12 years of being in the military that I had enough. And just coincidentally, the same time was around elections, and I was invited to become a candidate.
2015 or 2020?
2020.
Okay.
But prior to, before I left the military, I had no political affiliations. So it's when after I left the military, that's when I became politically involved. And I chose the People's National Congress Reform as my political party. At that point in time, and still, I believe the policies of the PNCR are great policies for this great country. And with the leadership then, David Granger, I saw many things that could have happened, and many things that did happen under his leadership, and many things that I would have liked to be a part of in his leadership going forward. Hence why I accepted to be a candidate and then campaign under the APNU AFC banner in the 2020 elections.
Good. I have a follow-up question from that. A few weeks back, we had a gentleman here by the name of Leonard Craig. He was one of the campaign officials for the Alliance for Change. And he made some disclosures sitting in that seat there. He says the conclusions is that at the end of the day that he believed that he was given figures which he made some pronouncements on that might not necessarily be factual. And I'm just paraphrasing here, but there's the conclusions that we could have made based on the statements that he made. There were a lot of statements made from that 2020 elections that the PNCR won. There's some elections petition that are before the court.
One.
And I think there's supposed to within a couple of days be some other decisions by the court. I want to ask you if you have taken a look at what would have transpired, the pronouncements of the court, and the evidence that was put forward to you, Mr. Seeram, and whether you were the conclusions that things happened that would have warranted an entire elections to be in favor of the PNCR.
Well, you know,
or the coalition.
Apart from being a candidate for the AP and UFC in the 2020 general and regional elections, I was also called up to be one of the tabulation officers at the national recount. And that's when I actually became very involved with the elections aspect of it. And any person that sat in the national recount can tell you from day one of opening boxes that we found issues with those boxes. They're all fully documented, and it leaves one to think that on one hand you have elections were free and fair on March the 2nd, but when we actually opened the boxes, then we saw a lot of anomalies. Things were missing, statutory documents were missing.
But there was some explanation that was given to that low and feel. I think Mingo would have
ordered those documents. But Mr. Seeram.
But I'm not speaking about any specific issue. I'm speaking generally. When we went into all of those boxes, first time, basically a forensic audit was done on all of the boxes, right? And it left me, in my opinion, thinking that, that something was wrong here in terms of the elections. Now, we saw it, we reported it to our leadership, and we reported it to GCOM. When I can't remember the exact date, but it was a Friday, and after tabulating, we realized that 40-something, I think it was 47 or so, boxes on the east coast of Demerara didn't have any statutory documents in them, and basically they just had ballots. And we raised them as a concern. Now GCOM at the time, I raised it as a concern. It was sent to the supervisors, which went to the CEO, that called a meeting and put those boxes, took those boxes off of the tabulation. And a decision was not made if to tabulate those boxes until the Sunday morning afterwards, which we found very questionable because, if you look at R.D.C, R.D.C of the national recount is very clear, and we didn't do every single step of R.D.C. And that is something that is fundamentally wrong with the process, because if you had went through R.D.C and had a total reconciliation of all of the votes leading to valid votes, right, then we would have arrived at different numbers from the national recount as opposed to what was actually declared.
But you would concede that there was a recount one, and you would also concede, not concede, it was a fact that there was a GCOM secretariat which had custody of those boxes,
yes,
and that every step of the way that they were in control of
the
process.
Mr. Seeram.
No, but I'm not finished yet, Freddie. So, I mean, if it is that one Mingo, I think it was Mingo, who ordered or who instructed that those statutory documents that you're talking about be taken to GCOM secretariat, and let's assume that thing that you can't get away from the fact that there was a recount that was overseen or overlooked by the CARICOM leaders.
But I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that.
Conclusions of that.
There are many people, there are many guests, a few guests who have sat down here and have spoken about a recount. Now, we could simply do it on this table here with these bottles. There was an election won. From this election should flow statements of poll and who won the elections. This number one was contested, and then it went to number two, which is this. Now, why we went to number two is because in the first phase, the incumbent party did not accept the result, and so it came to number two. When it came to number two, then we found out only on the claims of the opposition party. There had been no observer mission that vitiated the election based on what they found in the boxes. And I must tell you that the incumbent government did not allow one of the most internationally prestigious observer group to observe the recount, that is the Carter Center. Then when we reached to the third stage, which is the conclusion of the recount, the people that were supervising the recount and overlooking it declared an election result that favored the PPP. It leaves us then with number four, the fourth process, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fourth process is all these claims of anomalies, irregularities, and conspiracies. are not being corroborated by any other human group. Doesn't that strike you as kind of strange?
Well, it doesn't strike me as strange. What I'll say is this. We had an elections in 2020. We had a national recount. We had a declaration based on statements of recount and not statement of polls. Right? A president was sworn in and a government is in place. Now, what I find strange is that elections petitions were made, put forward, but the government of the day is using every single ammunition in their artillery not to have these election petitions heard. Now, I find that strange, because if we're going to sit down, we're going to go over and over. This is the 2020 election.
Only one petition. You have to, viewers, you need to tell viewers that one petition was thrown out when it reached the first stage of the court, which is a constitutional court headed by the Chief Justice. That was thrown out.
Because
and that procedure was upheld by 5 judges of Guyana's apex court.
Yes, but when it went to the appeals court, right, it was said that we can go forward with it. But then the government took it to the apex court. So I'm saying, instead of running a country, you spend a lot of resources to not hear an elections petition. Right?
Why should you hear an election petition?
So you should hear an elections petition.
No, if it's a mischievous action.
No, but you should hear an elections petition, right? To put an end to all of this debate.
No, but why should you hear it?
If you have nothing to worry about, if you have nothing to worry about, why spend so much time and effort? No, fine. If
you must allow a piece of mischief to go unchallenged.
No, that is the challenge.
No, the challenge.
And then listen to the election petition.
A government, a ruling party named the PPP, sees the opposition filing a election petition and say, listen, this thing is just masquerade, this thing is just mischief. We are going to oppose this thing and get this nonsense thrown out. Why is that not a logical action?
The same government that is trying to stop the elections petition, right, has just instructed that the commission of inquiry be done. So you're spending taxpayers' money now to stop the elections petition, and you're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to masquerade the entire country for a commission of inquiry.
The two are completely
the two are the same.
No, it can't be the same.
Two are the same.
One is an election petition by the loser.
Because
one is an election petition by the loser.
And the commission of inquiry, right, is a parade and a circus to give legitimacy to this government.
No, you could go in the commission inquiry and say the same thing.
As long as many shadows are cast on the elections, the only thing that can vitiate it, as you say, is the elections petition.
No, but you are.
But which is your party thing.
No, not my party is taking. My party is taking the elections petition to the court. The competent authorities up to the court to hear it.
Not do it properly, and it was shown.
And the court has to hear it. The court has to hear it. When the court hears it, then a competent authority can decide on it.
The court cannot hear something. You file, I sue you for libel. You take 6 months to reply. The court throws it out.
So the government has all right to fight it with taxpayers' money, and then to spend hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money on a commission of inquiry, which will probably last until 2025 with the next elections.
It's two different things.
But let me ask you.
No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
One is your party.
It is the same thing.
So those two judges are
right now they have matters before the court with regards to elections 2020. And let's be fair. Why would you have matters in the court, right, with regards to elections 2020? But yet, one of the persons, a political party, right, who does not have all of the favors from election 2020 in terms of their legitimacy being called into question, right, going to hold a commission of inquiry.
I want to ask
you. Mean a
no, but why do it?
But the word
why
pronounce
hold, no, but why
the
no
word
hold it?
pronounce on the
Well then let the petition go through. Let the competent
the government of
decide on it.
Ethiopia and the government of Belgium and an international body in Switzerland support your position. Which organization, which country supports your position?
No, well, let it go to the court and let the court tell you whose position is better.
No, let the PNC have its way.
Why are you
Let the
spending
PNC
so
have
much
its way.
energies, right, in not hearing the elections
Because we
petition?
go to clear up. That commission
So who is
going
it
to clear up.
we as in you and the PPP?
We mean the
you and the PPP.
We mean the Guyanese people. I have no connection.
You and the PPP.
Unlike
because
you
right
don't have
now,
any connection to any
right
political
now,
party.
as you sound here right now, as you sit here right now,
Yeah.
you cannot validate a logical statement by me saying, if any wrongdoing was done in the elections, let it come out in the elections petition. Let the chips fall into it.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Let the Guyanese people
I want to ask a very,
Do you want me to respond to that?
and if we keep going down this line, running behind with tail and so, you can't tell me that the government is going to use taxpayers' money to stop an elections petition, then use the same taxpayers, more of the taxpayers'
For
money
the third time,
to hold the
Seeram,
commissions of inquiry.
It's not the same.
It is the exact same
No,
thing.
it's not the same.
Right?
One is your party.
We will take it cheaper in front of the courts to listen to our elections petition
But the
rather than
courts
all of the
threw out
money.
your petition.
Rather than
It
all
was
of the money.
improper.
Yes, because the government is spending millions of Guyana dollars, right, on legal proceedings to ensure that the petitions are not
So
heard.
you are casting aspersion on those two top regional judges. They're biased. So I want to ask you something now. Hold on, Gildarie.
I want to know why the PPP is fighting for dear life trying to keep these petitions out of the court.
Because I will answer that. It's a piece of nonsense. It's a piece of
But then the same thing could be said. The same thing could be said.
They lost an election.
But the same thing could be said about the Commission of Inquiry. All of the adjectives you just used could be used to say about the Commission of Inquiry. Because
Daniel, you saw the statement of polls.
the Commission. No. But the Commission of Inquiry.
Officer.
I didn't have statements of poll. I dealt with the recount. And I made that very clear. I dealt with statement of recount.
Right? I was about to raise this question to you. If it is, how were you arguing that it should go to the High Court, or it should go to the court and let the court decide on the election petition? But if the smaller court has seen that there's not a case or because of procedure, it cannot advance itself, how do you take it there? Then there's another...
No, you're making a mistake. No, you're making a mistake. It's two petitions. One was thrown out and one is being heard. One is being heard.
But he is saying,
one is before the court being heard.
regardless of anything, Daniel is saying, let it go to the highest forum so we could have peace of mind.
Yeah, it's going on. One is going on. One has been thrown out by the court because the court said, listen, you don't have no respect.
No, but you changed your mind because just now you didn't want the petition, now you want the petition.
I never said want the petition. You are saying, Mr.
Kissoon, you got to choose a side.
Can I?
If you're going to run full PPP all night, then run full PPP all night. Don't try to be
I'm not
neutral.
running PPP.
Don't try to be
facts.
neutral. Do not try to be neutral and then try to be
you're
PPP.
misleading people by saying
No, you are misleading people. At first you said you don't want the petition because you think it's whatever. Now you holler that one day we can hear the one. Which one will you want?
Let me explain. Let me tell you. I'm telling you what I want. One petition. I believe both petitions are a piece of mischief. One, the court threw out. I and Gildarie and the rest of the Guyanese people have no jurisdiction.
So you don't want to hear so wait, man. You don't want to hear no petition, but you want. It's not that I don't want to go to a commission of inquiry.
It's not that I don't want to hear no petition. A commission of inquiry. Your petition is being held. And at the same time your petition is being heard in court because there's a second petition.
And the government is fighting against the petition from it being heard in court.
But why you don't want them to fight it if they think it's mischief? But why you don't want them to fight it?
Why must they fight it? If everything is square and the PPP has nothing to worry about, in terms of what transpired during 2020
the PNC's game. They must play
it's not the PNC game, it's the court's game.
No, it's not
let the court hear it. Let the court hear all the evidence. But when they hear all the evidence, let the competent authority make that decision. You are trying to tell your viewership, you're trying to tell everybody, let us not hear this thing.
You are misleading the viewers.
Let us hear.
You refuse to give the court your statements of poll, and you're going to lose the second petition. Because you cannot.
No, you pronouncing we're going to lose the second petition.
Yes, you will.
You already know.
I know you're going to lose.
You already know.
And I'm telling you why you're going to lose. Because the courts are no fool. The courts are going to listen to the petition.
Let the petitions go through.
But it's one
if the courts are no fool, then allow the petition to go through.
One is being heard.
Right? But you saying this once is you got catch your senses, you know, because once is one time is mischief, the next time you don't want it, now you want it hard, now the court will kick it out. You gotta bring it. You have to have a structure. Even the insanity, they must have some structure.
Daniel,
even the insanity, they must have structure.
But if you want to,
Daniel, Freddie,
no structure put in the table here with Suchu.
There is a structure. There is a structure. The structure is this. The structure is simple. The logical thing is to do. A party doesn't like what happened during the election. They filed a petition. The petition was filed. Fine. They had some issues with the petition. Went to another court to have it heard. Before it could be heard, the government is fighting feverishly for it not to be heard. When the PPP filed the petition in 2015.
Next question, please.
When the PPP filed the petition in 2015, did the AP and UFC government went behind that petition to stop it? Or was it of the volition of the PPP that decided not to go after it anymore?
Daniel, I want you to look at that.
Answer that?
No, don't answer, please. Could you look into that camera there? And I want you to tell the people, if it's not fair to the people of Guyana, after nonsense of 5 months, and it's still continuing to a couple because we have the election petition, whether the people of Guyana, just for the sake of their peace of mind, don't deserve a COI. Let's separate the two now. Should they have some questions?
I am saying every question that the people of Guyana have should be answered.
Right.
Everybody everybody needs to have answers to election 2020. Right? What I'm saying is that the competent authority to decide on that is courts with the elections petition before it. I am of the firm belief, right, that the Commission of Inquiries being called by the government should not have been called by the government because the government is a party to it. The government cannot set up an apparatus or a system to investigate what happened in something that they took part in.
Independence of the members?
Well, I'm not speaking about the members, right? I haven't had a look at the membership. I'm talking about the COI in itself, right? I think that the COI is premature and should allow the elections petition and all of the court matters surrounding elections.
So what happens if the court stops it right there, the elections petition, and the people still have unanswered questions? How do you deal with that situation?
Well, if the people have it there, then we have a stakeholders interaction between all of the political parties to decide that we will go forward with this and have all of the political parties that went in the 2020 election decide on the way forward. Not just the government of the day deciding that we will have a commission of inquiry. We're going to put forward terms of reference. We're going to do this without even calling the opposition or any other of the members of parties that took part in the election to have a say in what should we be looking for, right? Who should be hired? Who did this? Who did this?
That's misleading. You can't have everything. Only one party is making those claims. There were 10 parties that contested the election.
I thought you know when you have structure, you can come back in the council.
But I wish you would see
what I'm saying is that instead of holding a COI fully government funded and fully government backed, right, have a representative from every political party that contested in the 2020 election, so that nobody at the end of the day, right, can say that they want a part of the putting together process of this COI, right? Nothing that needed to be done was not done. They were included along the way. But you see, this is the problem that we're having. A lot of people speak good governance, but good governance, a major pillar of good governance is consultations at all levels with every single stakeholder.
And your party, the PNC, I wanted to ask you, why every time someone defends the Guyanese people, they right to vote, what happened in the election, the PPP. Why? What?
No, I didn't say you said we. You said we and why here. You said we and why here. The petition. The only party that they want here the petition is the PPP. So you just said we.
The only party that want ANOG has no interest in election petition. The Justice and Liberty Party.
None of those political parties are fighting feverishly in the courts to keep the petitions from being heard.
But and
I'm sure,
but the petition has to be forward by the Attorney General.
If the petition goes forward and it's heard and everything is open, let the chips fall where they may. Let the people of Guyana get some rest on this issue.
Mr. Seeram, I want to take it, I want to conclude that you're a very intelligent person. And one of the most, one of the most active calls that we were having during that 5 months, make your statement of polls known. Did you use any of your powers, because I'm sure you were one of the person who was involved in the tabulation, to say to the leadership of the AFC APNO that, look, you guys, you've won. Why are you not making a statement of polls available to the people? Because everybody got the same thing. I mean, if you in a place of voting, you got one, me got one. Tom Jones walked through the door, you strike him off, you strike him off. You put it up there, it's easy to think, why wasn't the APNO AFC putting it up there? Did you use your, we're trying here, because this is history being recorded here. And if you want to tell the people that you are very serious, you're a very credible leader, that who's probably going to contest for the presidency, maybe sometime or the other, you got to be able to at least put aside some of the questions that would be arising. What role did you play during the 2020 elections? There were questions there. Did you ask the leadership to at least, put it to the people out there? Did you play any role in putting all those statements of poll?
Let her know. I had nothing to do with statements of poll.
Mm-hmm. Who were calling the shots?
Pardon?
Who was calling the shots? Were there a few people in the leadership?
Party leadership was calling the shots. When I was invited to take part in the national recount, that is when I went there and I saw exactly what happens in an elections, apart from actually being a member of the public going to vote. Right? Now, I, like any other member of the public, want to know what happened. I think we can all agree that mischief happened during the 2020 elections. We can all agree.
By whom?
But this is the thing. We can't point fingers and say mischief by whom, right? Until a competent authority goes through everything that is there and decides who was at fault.
So you can't come up with any evidence.
No. Hold the thing.
Oh.
When we went into that national recount, Leonard, right, and everybody in there with me, even the PPP operatives in there walking, right, were surprised to see what we saw when we opened those boxes.
They never said, right? Are you speaking for
No, none of them would ever come out. None of them would never come on a forum like this and say this.
They told you that.
I was in there.
You know how much PPP officials we had in
Well, you allow me to finish now.
Yeah, sure.
When I went into that national recount, I saw it for myself, right? And I said, something is wrong here. I could have stood and I could have spoken and I could still speak on everything I saw in those boxes and what was wrong, right? Because we had it. This thing here maneuvered so much during the recount till things weren't matching up so much that they had a basket list of anomalies and so that we had to look for and these things. What I'm saying is that something went wrong with the election apparatus. And this is GCOM.
But who was in charge of that apparatus?
GCOM, right? And whatever went wrong there, the only way we can actually point fingers directly and say who did what or what transpired or so is by having the election petitions heard, right? In a COI, we'll just have people coming forward to give their recollection of what happened. Freddie, I hear you loud and clear. And I'm here sitting just like you, and I want to know what happened. I actually was in there, I saw it for myself, and I said, something is wrong here. I said, something is wrong here, we have to look into this. For me, if I was in a position of authority to decide the fate of elections 2020, I would have gone back to the polls.
Daniel,
Because something is wrong there.
in an elections petition, you keep talking about election petition since this program began. An election petition has a plaintiff. The plaintiff is the PNC. The PNC has to pick up these pieces of tangible things and present it as evidence in an election petition. I'm asking you now, don't you think the judges will ask for the statements of polls by the PNC? It's an election petition. They have to produce that.
And don't you think that our competent lawyers are prepared to do all that you're asking for? Once the judges ask for it, but we haven't gotten to that level as yet.
Yep.
You see, you have to understand something, right? We all agree mischief happened during the election.
Who's we?
Well, you know we only conveniently.
Who's we?
Right?
Who's we? You know mischief happened, Gildarie?
No, there's a question of we. Are you going to answer it? But go ahead. Go
No.
ahead.
The general public watched entire thing in elections as it unfolded before all of us. Everybody is still uneasy as to what really happened. Political parties are pointing fingers. GCOM, in my humble opinion, still can't get their act together, and we need to improve on that. We hear about local government elections coming. We still don't have confidence in that machinery. We don't have a clean voters list. We have certain things that we have to fix. Because this isn't just a Daniel Seeram or Freddie Kissoon or for Leonard Gildarie. This is for the future of. We don't want to end up in a situation where we end up in 2020. I don't want to ever be back in a situation like that. All of us here were embarrassed nationally by what happened.
Man, you can't be speaking.
Right?
You can't be speaking.
All of us were embarrassed by what happened.
Daniel Seeram.
You could come and tell me. You could tell me.
Well, let me ask a question. You're talking about a clean voters list. Why would you go to 2020 elections and that list also had the same problems?
Well, I really can't answer for that. I was not a part of the planning process going up to the elections. I was nowhere in any portfolio to make objections on behalf of a voters list. Right? What I can tell you is that what we saw there, right, as young individuals, we want to ensure that the machinery that will take us into for the elections, right, must be working to its optimum. And all the things must be in place, because we know whomever was a part of the national recount know exactly what happened. Saw it in those boxes, what could happen. Right? The only thing to deal with it now, and this is the problem that we're having, we had a recount before an elections petition was filed. We had a recount. A president was sworn in not based on statements of poll, he was sworn in on statements of recount. And David Granger agreed with whatever decision GCOM made at the time, whatever declaration they made, and he went forward with that.
You support David Granger's position?
Talking about David Granger, I'm interested.
You support David Granger's position?
David Granger was the leader of the party, and it was in his wisdom, and that is what he did. And
a
yes,
party is not a man or a woman. A party is a party.
When you see everything going wrong,
had to concur.
Pardon?
The other leaders had to concur.
I wasn't a part of the leadership, so I can't speak
I'm
on behalf
asking
of
if you
the other
concur.
leaders.
But they had to concur. But then Granger made that decision alone.
Granger made the decision.
Or we not make decision alone in the party?
Granger made his decision as the leader of the party, and his entire party backed him on that decision.
Including Robin Houghton?
There are voices that dissenting. There are dissenting voices that said that he should have stayed on a bit longer. But in his wisdom and with the information that he had on hand, right, he decided to go, and he said it publicly all throughout the entire elections period, that I will abide by the declaration of GCOM. And that is what he did.
Daniel, between March 2nd, 2020 and August 2nd, 2020, there were a lot of whispers. You were hearing a lot of things. Freddie and I were sitting at the Kaicho radio there, and you'll hear a lot of stuff flying from side to side. But one of the most consistent things that we were hearing is that David Granger would have disappeared, and he would have locked himself, and he was out of what was happening. He was very unhappy. Could you tell us a little about what happened? Because we haven't seen much of David Granger. We don't know whether it's true, whether he was unhappy what was happening within his party, if anything happened, or he just decided to finish with politics and just moved on from that. What happened to David Granger during those times? Because the media didn't see him.
Well, I can't speak to what happened to David Granger between the period that you would have noted, because I didn't have any interactions with him, at least not at that level, right? What I can tell you now is that David Granger is, he's a very senior gentleman, and he has some health issues. So he's not very much in the public, as you know, anybody at that age and at that stature, and he did survive cancer. But he does do his weekly program, and I'm sure that anybody who wants to get onto him can get onto him. I respect his decision to stay out of the public, right? Be more family oriented, and he has passed the baton of leadership for the PNC and the APNU, and any advice I ask him for up to now, if I need any assistance, he's readily available to assist.
As if elections are called next month, do you believe that the PNCR is in a position to contest the election and win the presidency?
The PNCR is always in elections mode, right? And at any time that the next election is called, the PNCR will put forward its best foot, going to the polls and doing what we know best through grassroots politics, going through the villages to ensure that we get everyone out. But before any other elections is called, right, GCOM must fix their apparatus. And this is why we make a clarion call for a clean voters list.
But the clean voters list is the list, Daniel, that list that you won the election in 2015 was the same list in 2020. It's the same list of the 2016 election. It's the same list of the 2018 election, 16 and 18 local government. It's the same list. A list, a Barbados list, is almost tantamount to the population of Barbados. No one in Barbados and in the world have said the last 3 elections in Barbados was rigged because of a bloated list. It is the mechanism to see that the people on the list are not fictionalized and then transferred into the ballot station. That's the important thing. Only 460,000 people voted in a list that had over 600,000 people. It is when the 600,000 people vote, then you can make those kinds of claims. Only 460,000 people voted.
So Freddie, I hear you loud and clear. I hear you loud and clear on it, right? But in your wisdom, is asking for a new voters list or a clean voters list something that can't be adhered to at this point in time? Well, just let's be realistic. Yeah, we asked for it. Is it so much of a problem to go for a new? Because here were a couple things in line too, right? We have a national census going on. Leonard, before we started, I was giving you the rough population of Region 4, right? And the numbers that we have to use to reference are 2012 numbers. And Region 4 is at there about 311,000 people, right? You yourself said that the list was used in 2015, 2016, 2018, 2020, 2020. Don't you think it's about time if any political party asks for a new voters list? At any point in time, the election machinery is supposed to be, yes, fine, because you don't want anyone to be in a position to question what is going forward. For me, after 2020 elections, I would have done a whole new voters list. I would have revamped the entire GCOM, ensure, tighten all the screws all over the place, right? Instead of saying that we're not supposed to have these things or you're against it, because if you're not for it, you're against it. So I'm saying, I am making a call along with members of my party for a clean voters list. And I don't think that's anything big for us to ask for at this point in time. And GCOM has the mechanisms to ensure that it happens. So why aren't they doing it?
I don't think.
Why aren't they doing it? Let's be reasonable.
I'm answering that question at the risk of being called a PPP. But then again, I remember one of the president's son-in-law on July the 17th, 2020, in a Facebook page said, and I quote his words, "For God's sake, stop scandalizing anyone that says the election, you lost the election. So, for the rest of the night, stop scandalizing me and recognize my patriotism and saying I'm a PPP. I have no relation with the PPP. Now, I'll be quite happy to have a relation with the PPP based on what they ask me to do. And if what they ask me to do is acceptable, I will do it. And so far, the president has asked me what I would like to do. And I told him, at my age, whatever I'd like to do, I'd like a younger person. Since then, I have not been asked to do anything by the PPP. I haven't asked them. But if the president asks me to do anything that is acceptable, I will. Now, it is not that the voters list is unclean. You keep saying a clean voters list. The court is saying, and the court has pronounced, that when Gene Smith was on the list and Gene Smith
But Freddie, I hear you, but you answered my question earlier. It is not too much to ask for a clean voters list. And GCOM, as the only job that they got in this whole country, is to hold elections.
Manage elections.
Manage elections, right? Manage, execute all the nice words they want. Why is it so difficult for them to keep proper records? Or why is it so difficult to them to, at any point in time, just go on a house registration and show that the list is of such a standard after 2020 that nobody could call GCOM and say anything because they have done it.
But the people have held good, credible elections until the one that the PNC law is saying is not credible.
And that is
the
why.
Same list the PNC won in 2015.
And that is why at this point in time. And that is why at this point in time.
Your Hindu colleague.
And that is why at this point in time.
The mayor won the election with that same list.
all of the mechanisms in it should be fixing things to ensure that whatever happened in the 2020 election never occurs again.
You're familiar with your colleague Annette Ferguson claiming that the election to elect the chairman for the PNC Georgetown, which is the biggest group of the PNC, all was not proper. You're familiar with that?
I heard about it.
Have you checked in? You know Annette personally, right?
Yes, I do know Annette personally.
Have you spoken to her? I mean, I want to, after you finish asking that, what's happening with Geeta Chandan Edmond? Is she on permanent leave? Is she?
Well, I haven't.
The first question is
I haven't spoken to Annette in quite some time. Actually, last time I saw Annette was probably at a function, and I haven't spoken about to her since I heard of the incident, the alleged incident. So I really can't comment on that. With regards to Geeta, the last that I know is that Geeta's on leave.
No, but her leave is no one gets such long leave. It's more than 3 months now. Well, no one knows the status of her leave.
Well, I'm the wrong person asking about the status of leave. I'm not employed at Congress Place. I'm just a member of the PNC.
Mr. Chairman of Region 4, Daniel Seeram. Is the local government, and I want to switch it up here a little. Is the local government system in Guyana working? I understand that sometimes, although you're the chairperson there, other places that sometimes it's the RA who runs things, and sometimes you don't. Well, I'm not saying you, the chairperson, are the ones not in control, or they're the ones that may not even be making decisions.
Let me thank you for bringing that up. At any, in my position as the regional chairman, right, the AP and UAFC won Region 4 outright. And with having a council led by an AP and UAFC person, but the regional administration, right, has been appointed by the government of the day. That means the government of the day controls the purse of the region, which should not be. But however, we always have political intrusions at the level of the region and at the municipalities and at the NDCs. Right. Currently this year, we had about 4 NDCs that have reported, 4 out of the 17 NDCs in Region 4 that have reported that the National Cleanup Campaign, they have not received the $4 million cash grant.
And who's supposed to give it to them?
The
RDO?
Ministry of Local Government.
Okay, okay.
Right? Apart from that, we still have issues going on at the municipalities. Now, you don't find those happening, right, at PPP-controlled municipalities or at PPP-controlled NDCs. Now, you would ask, why is that? If we're going to say, you know, you're preaching one Guyana slogan, you want everyone to come out, you want everybody to support, but you're not giving everybody the same treatment as you're giving the other NDCs and the other municipalities, then how could you expect us to...
No, my question really I wanted...
No, so here, I'm getting there, Leonard, right? I'm pointing it out to show you that the government of the day doesn't respect the local democratic organs who are controlled by the opposition. And we will always have that political intrusion in terms of spending and in terms of the allotment to those institutions. Likewise, at my regional democratic council, in 2020, we were muscled out of the budget. 2021, we had no say in the budget. 2022, we had no say in the budget. This year is the first year of my council's life, 2 years after, that we actually sat and planned the budget along with the regional administration, right? After reprimanding everyone and writing and bringing this matter to the highest level, straight to the president, to the minister of finance, the finance secretary, the director of budgets and everything, just to let them know what's going on. Because what you had happening is that from members of central government and the regional administration choosing projects for the past couple of years to place on that budget. And that is why you find that there's no vision in what is going on there in terms of the development. Because if the duly elected councillors, like what happened recently at my council, sits with the administration and decides, well, you know, every councillor belongs to a constituency. So they come with the information that every constituency is going through. If the constituency is having problems with drainage and irrigation, if the constituency is having problems with their road, if the constituency has a problem with the school needs upgrade, health centers, now they come and they bring these to the council meeting. This year I was happy to see everything submitted.
So it's not a broken system?
It is not a broken system. Once professionals remain professional and leave the politics to the politicians. But currently we are not seeing that. We're seeing overthrows all the time from senior members of government to other local government organs, right? And we're getting that type of issue.
Daniel, we had the mayor here, and one of the questions I said to him, and as an analyst, when you listen to people like you, the mayor, the PNC leaders, the AFC leaders, you wonder if 2015 to 2020 ever existed. Now, for example, the mayor came on this program and he said more than 50% of those humongous buildings. I pay $18,000 for my ordinary little house. I pay $18,000 rates and taxes. Imagine what the Georgetown City Council would collect from the humongous buildings that have gone up the past 15, 20 years. So I said to him, he said the municipality cannot do anything. But shouldn't there have been legislation from 2015 to 2020 to correct that? No. A man and a woman gets elected, as you were, but the government, central government, appoints a guy over you. What was your party doing in 2015 to 2020 to change that system? The local government system that we now function with a local government commission, was shaped by a bipartisan committee in which Vincent Alexander played a huge part. Now we're hearing from Daniel Seeram, we're hearing from the mayor about all these things that are going on. What happened between 2015 and 2020? What was this government that government, AP and UFT, doing for 5 years? Why weren't the laws changed, amended, so a central government cannot appoint a regional executive officer? You know, why everything was changed now and you guys didn't change it when you were in power?
Well, Freddie.
But you're willing to apologize for what your government did in 2015, 2020? You're not going to apologize.
Freddie, all I can tell you is that no system is perfect. And at this point in time, we are seeing the loopholes in the system that the central government is using to be intrusive in the works of both the municipalities and the regional democratic councils and the neighborhood democratic councils. Right? At this point in time, if we bring it to light, just as you said that the government between 2015 to 2020 didn't do anything, right? Let's see if the government of the day, when we pointed out the loopholes that need straightening, if they will do anything.
Because human nature is going to kick in. Human nature is going to kick in and say, why are you asking us to do it when you didn't do it? It favored you,
but if
so you didn't do it.
But if it's in the greater interest of the people of the day and how they are governing.
And Mr. Granger and Clive Thomas and the famous Rupert Tupnaline and all of them, Basil Williams, didn't know about the greater interest in 2015, 2020.
Well, if you were advising them how you are now, instead of back in the PPP, right, probably they would have remembered to fix certain parts of the laws.
Who am I advising?
Right?
Daniel, why everybody that disagrees with you guys are PPP?
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time, and like I've always said, it's good to have this kind of conversation, because when you talk about the governance of this country, we should also look at the past and see where the mistakes and try to correct it. The issue of local governance or local government in Guyana, we have to continuously pay attention, because if the regional democratic council, whichever regions we're in, they don't do the job, you're going to find out that you wake up tomorrow morning, the NDC is not doing their job. You're going to find out that the quality of life is not very good.
Can I cut you to say something? I think we missed the important point about Daniel. I think we have to congratulate him and we have to express our admiration. There are quite a number of PNC people that are afraid to come here in this program, that are reluctant.
And you don't think I was about to say something like that?
When those that have come have shown leadership qualities. Let me shake my hand and say, I'm glad that you came, and we will have you back again if you accept. And I think you have said what you believe in, and that is one of the characteristics of leadership.
And that was very good of Freddie Kissoon, and I was about to say the same thing. It's good. In fact, it is. I think it should be a mandatory thing that all our leaders, or who profess to be leaders in this country, they should come out, not to this program necessarily, but let us know what they're made of. We want to test them, because as we move in, as we're getting ready to really benefit from the oil and gas sector of this country, you're going to need people of character who to run our business, and you cannot have them hiding behind a wall or a secretary or a WhatsApp message. It can't happen like that. They must come and face the people.
But I don't think anybody browbeat Daniel Seeram,
no,
and I think he held his own.
Yeah.
If you were to come, when you go home, I am sure your relatives and family will say, yes, Daniel, you did well.
And it is, look, and we invited all and sundry onto our program here. We're going to argue, we're going to agree to disagree, and it is a good thing, because we're trying to find out what are the answers to some of the questions that would have arisen from the 2020 elections, and we will continue to ask.
Shall I sue him for libel?
I don't know, you can sue whoever it is. So ladies and gentlemen, please be careful on the roadways. I want to say thank you very much to my co-host Freddie Kissoon. It's always very, he's a bully, but he is who he is. And Daniel Seeram, Chairman of Region 4, co-op member of the People's National Congress, Reform, former Captain of the Army, one of the Guyanese people who we expect to see to go very far in whichever side he's chosen. He's on the PNCR side right now. We got to give him the support. We got to listen to our leaders, and that's what our country should be all about, raising the bar when it comes to conversation. Good night, folks. We're going to be back with you on Friday. I may or may not be here, but Freddie knows what he has to do. I have business to attend to. Have a pleasant rest of the night.